8 square roots of variable expressions. When we are working with these square roots of these variable expressions, we have a variable underneath the radical sign. If we do not have an index with any of these radicals, it's automatically a 2. So we're going to take that exponent, divide it by 2, and then whatever's left over would stay underneath that radical. If we look at example A, we have the square root of 196 y squared. The square root of that 196 is 14. If you didn't know that off the top of your head, though, take the prime factorization of it. We know that 2 goes into it evenly. 96 divided by 2 is 98. 2 goes into 98 as well. 2 goes into 9 4 times with 1 left over. 2 goes into 18 9 times, and then 49 is 7 times 7. So this is 7 times 2. And then we have the square root of y squared. That square root of y squared is the same thing as y times y. So if we have a pair of y's, we're going to multiply that by y as well. 7 times 2 is 14, times y is 14y. So our answer would just be 14y. For example B, we have the square root of 36x to the 8th power. This is the same exact thing as 6 times 6 times x to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times itself 8 times. So we have a group of 6, we pull 1 out. We have a group of x's, we're going to pull 1 out, another, pull another out, another, pull another out, and then one last one. So in total that's 4 x's, so x times x times x times x is x to the 4th power. So this is just 6x to the 4th power. And then again, we could have taken that x to the 8th power. Our index is an invisible 2, so we divide the 8 by 2. We get 4, so that's x to the 4th power as well. For C, we have the square root of m squared minus 6m plus 9. Well, we need to factor this. The 9 is 3 times 3, but if they're negative, we're going to get a negative 6 when we combine those. So this is the same thing as the square root of m minus 3 times m minus 3. We have a pair, so this is just m minus 3. For D, we have 18a cubed. So the 18 is 9 and 2. The 9 is 3 and 3. The a is a times a times a. So this is the same exact thing as saying 2 times 3 times 3 times a times a times a. So we're grouping up sets of 2. We have 2 3's. We pull 1 out. We have 2 a's. We pull 1 out. Now that 2 and that a are left over, so they're going to stay underneath the radical sign. So this is just 3a times the square root of 2a. If we look at example 2, we are now solving for x. We need to make sure that we remember that when we solve for x and we take the square root of both sides here, we have to include the plus or minus in front of it, because we can take either the square of a negative and it becomes positive, or the square of a positive and it stays positive. So we're going to start by getting x squared by itself. We divide each side by 9. We have x squared is equal to 64 over 9. We're going to take the square root here of both sides. And remember, this is the same thing as the square root of 64 over the square root of 9. We put the plus or minus in front of our answer, and x is equal to plus or minus 8 over 3. And with these, you would leave them as improper fractions here. You wouldn't turn them into mixed numbers. For example 3, we have 16x squared is equal to 81. So we're going to start by dividing each side by the 16. So x squared is equal to 81 over 16. We're going to take the square root of both sides. So x is equal to plus or minus 9 over 8. Or 9 over 4, I'm sorry. 9 over 4. Not dividing by 2. What times itself is 16. If we look at some of these examples, let's look at example 5. We have the square root of 0.09 c to the second power. So this is the same thing as that 9 being in the hundredths place. So 9 over 100, c squared, taking the square root of that. So the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 100 is 10, the square root of c squared is c. So it's just 0.3 c, or 3 over 10 c. Either one of these is fine. If we look at 8, we have the square root of x to the 4th, y to the 4th, all over 64. So we divide the 4 by 2, then we end up getting 2. So that's x squared, y squared over 8. For 9, we have the square root of r to the 6th, s to the 6th over 36. The square root of that 36 is 6, but r to the 6th, s to the 6th are invisible. Index there is 2, so we're going to divide both of these by 2, and we get r to the 3rd, s to the 3rd over 6. And lastly, for 10, we have m to the 16th power over 100, n to the 8th. So we're going to divide the 16 by 2, the 8 by 2, and take the square root of 100. That would be 10, n to the 4th underneath m to the 8th.